let's start with the intros.
My name is Brad Raymo. I have been in the industry now coming up on almost 15 years. I am currently in charge of all of the interconnection strategy for StackPath. It's a startup. That aside, my career has spanned from level 1 entry to where I am now. I feel like I've been exposed to a broad range of aspects of our industry, and I think that gives me a different perspective than somebody who hasn't started at the very bottom of their career. I completed my degree in 2020 during the pandemic, and my degree was in organizational leadership. Leadership is a big personal pet project of mine. It's something I've always enjoyed. So getting my degree in leadership was something that I felt would springboard my career and also give me guidance to help me help others. When I look at NANOG as an org, it's been a great organization. I feel like we can start taking it to the next level, but that next level is going to involve new blood, new people, and fresh ideas.
Hello, my name is Christopher Chin, and I've been in the networking sphere for more than 3 decades. If terms like AppleTalk, NetWare, ThickNet, and Vampire Taps mean anything to you and pique nostalgia, then you can relate. Since then, we've seen continuous and dramatic evolution in the way we move and store data. Even if you've been in the networking sphere for only a year, you've still been witness to dramatic change. NANOG has been and continues to be a tremendous resource for us all. As the old adage goes, it takes a village, and the community that is NANOG helps us all do what we do more efficiently and more sanely. I would love to help steward that.
Hi, my name is Dave Siegel. I'm running for the board of NANOG this year. This will be my second term, if elected this time around. I've been involved in NANOG since 1994 is when I first joined the mailing list, back before the NSFNet transition. Things were really different. First physical NANOG was in Boulder, Colorado, back in February of '95. And I'm involved in NANOG and trying to help make it successful because it was such a fantastic resource for me as a young and new engineer. I wouldn't have been able to run a network or do what I did without the help of others from the community. And I'm just so thankful for that and want to continue to make it a community that's great for other people to learn and thrive as well.
My name is Alex Latsko. I've been in the network business for pushing 40 years now. My collection of toys includes an original Cisco CSC0 card from way back. I've grown into it through the NCP TCP conversion. I am a bit of an IPv6 zealot. Been part of IATF. Been active in NANOG for about 8 years, and I am currently the principal network architect for a company called Deft.com.
Hello from sunny Seattle. First, I'll start by saying that the current NANOG board has been doing a fine job, and I had been planning to vote to re-elect both of the incumbents, but with Susan Forney's untimely passing, that's no longer possible. Instead, my hope is to actively help to continue their good work. I've had the honor to serve on the board before, and you can read more about that in my bio. But most recently, I had the privilege of serving as a non-voting board member while acting as a program committee chair this past winter. I joined in the board's annual retreat where we all worked together over several long Zoom sessions to produce our current strategic plan. I was struck by how well the board worked together and how well their vision and priorities matched my own. That strategic plan is posted on NANOG's website, and I encourage all of you to take another look at it. To me, the biggest challenges facing NANOG are encouraging early career network engineers to participate, expanding opportunities for learning and collaboration beyond our traditional conferences and mailing list, and ensuring our financial stability during the slow pandemic recovery. So I hope that you'll give me the opportunity to help refine and continue the strategic plan the current board has set in motion. Thank you for your consideration.
Let's move on to our questions. Our first one, given the anticipated limits for many around travel for the next couple of years, how would you guide NANOG to retain and expand community engagement and professional development? And then a follow-on question to that is, what do you envision will be required to foster this sense of community?
Yeah, great question. What we've been focusing on as a board the last couple of years is to develop a strategy for NANOG that does focus on modernizing the way in which we interact with the community. And last year being as unique as it was the crisis created a great opportunity for us to develop the virtual NANOG, which had been on the wish list for a long time, and then it became a necessity with COVID to develop it. And the executive director and the NANOG staff did a fantastic job rising to the task and rolling that out. Secondarily, we also embarked on a modernization program around the user interface for NANOG, trying to elevate it from just a mailing list to now experimenting with discourse is another way of engaging. If you add to that the education committee and the work they've been doing around not only in-person classes, but being able to roll out online courses, self-paced online courses in the future, the mentorship committee, which would happen outside of the general forums and be able to happen in a virtual format, as well as the educational outreach program that the staff does to engage with universities and to do webinars and things like that. I think all of these things are hitting on that point of creating an environment that is not linked strictly to the face-to-face meetings. Those will, of course, continue to be really important. It's the basis of what NANOG is. It's where a lot of business gets done. But I think all these other areas are really helping to enhance that and also create some protection in the COVID world with restricted travel.
So clearly, meeting together in person has been a challenge, and it's going to keep being challenging for a long time to come. Hopefully, it will ease over the next year, but it's not going to be perfect. So what the board has been doing and needs to keep doing is coming up with additional ways that we can meet online, meet in small groups, and work together in things that aren't part of the main conferences. So things like the webinars we've been doing, maybe local gatherings in cities where people can get together, expanding educational opportunities that can be done virtually, things like that would help a great deal in keeping us moving.
That's a very interesting issue. We were able to quickly pivot to an entirely virtual solution. I'm on the program committee, so I was well aware of the sausage making going on in the back room. It is now back to a hybrid meeting where we are emphasizing remote participation. I expect that will happen for at least the next 2 years as travel becomes easier, as the national borders become unlocked, as people get more vaccinations and disease rates drop. I believe the concept is that it will be a fully hybrid environment going forward forever, because as we found, being hybrid with remote interactivity, we have gotten a lot more participation from people in Western Europe, Asia, and Africa.
So that is an interesting question. With the current state of affairs, it's kind of hard to predict what will happen. Feedback generation, feedback would be a great way to start the planning, is reach out to the members, actually reach out to the non-members, because our membership is a portion of who attends NANOG, but there are a lot of non-members who attend who just may not want to become members. That's who we should be asking, because they are the community. I think it should be open up to anyone who attends an NANOG meeting to get their opinion on what we should do. That aside, if we want to look at engaging with the community more, we should look at, if we can't do giant meetings with everybody together, we should look at setting up smaller community meetings in cities. Instead of being a multi-day thing, see if we can set up an event at a school, at a hotel lobby. I bet there's even companies in some of the locations who would sponsor having a room in their building for local people to come and talk and learn. What do you envision will be required to foster the sense of community? It's going to require engagement from everyone. We have all been doing this for a year. It's been tough. How do you manage a personal relationship, a professional relationship when you're staring at everybody from a computer screen? The in-person is important. But until we can get to a spot where everybody can be in person, I think we need to really start reaching out and engaging with people, not just over a screen. Pick up a phone call, have a call with somebody, reach out, check in how they're doing, and then work. together, we can do the same thing for NANOG with our members.
This has been tough. I hate when people say unprecedented times, but these have been challenging. I think that we've done a great job so far, but I think encouraging and inspiring people to participate even remotely is important, and getting people to even just schmoozy types of fun social events, just having people on camera really makes a difference. I think if we encourage people maybe with a drawing or some exciting prize, as is always a good way to get people to show up to things, that's one way that we can encourage people to come to virtual events.
Our next question: what should the NANOG board do to ensure the next generation of network engineers see our community as positive, diverse, and inclusive?
So this has been a longstanding issue for NANOG. We need to come up with ways to appeal to young engineers whose motivations might be different from some of us old timers. So we need to come up with educational opportunities, social opportunities, and other ways to engage people who might be new to the industry, who might not have the opportunity to travel to conferences or otherwise get in by the traditional methods. Social media is big part of that, and I'm glad to see that we've been focusing on that over the last 2 years as well.
Inclusivity and diversity are super important to me. As a person of color and as someone who has experienced discrimination in many forms, both overt and subtle, I think that it's extremely important to have the ideas of diversity and inclusivity at the core of what we do. They can be things as simple as updating our bylaws to remove implicit requirements or implicit references to gender. They can be in the way we do things, the way we reach out to community, the way we promote events. Just having these ideas in mind is something that is extremely important to embodying them and living them. And as a person of color and as someone who's had these experiences, I can bring my direct experiences to bear.
That is a great question. So one of the things that I've noticed in this year with the election, it's not a diverse crowd of candidates. There's not a single female candidate that I can see on the list that is running for the board. If we want to keep it positive, diverse, and inclusive, I think we should start looking internally first. Look at how the board is made. What can we do to get interest from those who are not in the majority interested in running for the board? How do we get them engaged? We need to keep we don't need to keep the way we are doing things. There are some aspects of things that work, some that don't. For example, on our website, we have a section about diversity and inclusion. It hasn't been updated since 2020. That should be something that maybe we want to update on a quarterly basis. Maybe every year seems a little far-fetched. If we can start highlighting and bringing in more awareness within the community, I think that'll get us in the right step to become a more open, diverse, and inclusive organization.
That's one of the biggest problems we have, is that with the current emphasis on the cloud, the number of people who are specific network engineers who know the protocols and understand the underlying architecture is kind of graying. We have been working with the University Outreach Program. Individual mentorships are starting to grow, and people in the industry are starting to realize that they need to grab people right out of college and drop them into a hardcore networking environment in an apprenticeship situation so that they can learn and grow into it So by the time the last of the old guard, and I consider myself the old guard, have retired in 10 or 15 years, they have the 10 or 15 years of having made mistakes and learned that they will take over and start fostering the next generation. As far as diversity, it has to be proactive on everybody's part. You're going to look to your own self before you do anything else. And now you have to look to make sure that yourself is not the person you're looking at the mirror, it's everybody else around you.
Yeah, there's been a number of things that we've been trying to do. We continue to expand the scholarship programs to try and get more students to come out, to get more professors to sponsor their own students. We're trying to expand that so that students that want to come that don't have a professor student to sponsor them and chaperone them, that they have a way that they can come. The educational outreach is all about reaching out to communities that maybe aren't familiar with network engineering or networks as a discipline and as a job. So trying to educate around what the opportunities are in that space. And I think we need to continue to do those things and expand them a little bit. Additionally, there's been some concerns that maybe the environment at the conference itself is maybe not conducive to retaining some of the people that are diverse that come to the conferences. And so we're introducing some things like an ombudsman at the next conference to be a place for people to go if they feel like they're derided in any way or just made to be feel uncomfortable by another member, that there's somebody independent that they can go to, because we don't want for there to be any issues of sexual harassment or racism or anything that would make the NANOG experience less inclusive. We want everyone to feel comfortable and want to come back. And since we have like 2/3 of the attendees of every conference never return to another NANOG, I think this is an area that we could really help expand the community to just get more of the people back that were here the first time. We want to make sure NANOG is a safe environment so that is not one of the barriers or issues.
Strategically, what do you think are the biggest opportunities or challenges for NANOG as an organization?
Finances are always a problem for any organization. And that is something that has been exacerbated by the current situation and the reduction in travel, the participation at in-person events, sponsorships. These are things that are squeezing us all. I think if we are able to operate in a lean manner and look at things that are frivolous, be able to cut some of that out of the budget, we'll be able to operate a little more efficiently and then be able to come back with gusto when things start to return to normal.
So as I said in my opening, and we just talked about encouraging early career engineers to join and participate is huge. As we start aging out, we need to have new people in the industry, and we need to appeal to them as part of our community so that the community thrives. We need to expand opportunities to learn and collaborate beyond the traditional conferences and our old mailing list. And we need to make sure that no matter what else we do, NANOG remains financially viable going forward, given the changes in the way we can collect revenue right now.
Strategically, I think we need to look at the composition of our meetings, where we're holding our meetings, and what we can do to either decrease the number of them or decrease the size of the overall spend. Right now, we have 3 meetings a year. If we cut down to 2 meetings a year, how much revenue would that save us? And how much more engagement could we get? Because now you have longer amount of time between sessions, which means you can have more time to develop a track that will work. As somebody who's on the program committee, having more time to get talks in, to get them to the spot where they need to be and get voting done, having extra time would definitely help make a better program. I think some of the biggest challenges we have right now is what's going on with the pandemic. The travel restrictions from local members and attendees who come from out of the United States, it's going to be tough to keep that engagement. So I think that's going to be our biggest spot, because we do have commitments to hotels, to all of these things. We need to be smart with our future planning, because I think planning too far out is what's causing us to be in a not great situation. If we get to a point where we can fiscally and membership wise plan further out, that's great. But I think we should reduce the scope and how far we're planning our events.
Well, the biggest challenge we've had has been the revenue stream from that we've lost from not having the in-person meetings. That's been really, really tough. And last year, the PPP loans were really helpful in keeping things stable, but this year those things don't exist. And we've had 2 virtual meetings, and the next meeting we're not expecting for it to be a normal NANOG in terms of turnout. So the sponsorship dollars are down, as well as the registration revenue. So those are huge concerns from a tactical perspective. That, thank goodness the previous directors of the board thought to hoard so much cash, to have so much of a reserve for exactly this kind of situation, even though no one foresaw this exact thing happening. That's exactly what it was for. And we haven't yet cracked the nut on how to really develop sponsorship in a virtual environment. And I think, and I hope that the education programs and the mentorship programs, as well as continuing to develop the virtual platform, that these become a valued way to create some new revenue streams that we haven't had in the past. I think that is really important from a foundational perspective to whatever strategy we want to employ over the next few years, and future boards want to employ going out even further. We're going to need revenue streams that are not purely anchored inside the meeting and from the meeting. So that's what I see as being number one.
I think the biggest challenges are continuing to foster open communications across borders as time zones work, and to continue finding more people, diverse backgrounds, to get them into the mainstream of networking. There is an old boys wall for many parts of the business that we just have to break through proactively. It won't happen by itself. So university outreach, the Women in Technology group has been growing steadily, even in the face of COVID.
Our next question. Funding is always an issue with every nonprofit. How can you help NANOG find more revenue sources?
One of the ways is by leveraging my background in nonprofits. I know a lot of people. I've been in the amateur athletics business. I've been in the theater business, and a lot of it is just going out and using your contacts. Fundraising mailers don't work. Picking up the phone and calling people and saying, "Hey, we'd like you to support this," will get a much better response most of the time.
We've been trying to look for, and I say we. I really have to credit the executive director. We've asked him to look and do more outreach for donations from partner organizations like ISOC, and then Aaron, of course, is already a big sponsor and is very dedicated to making sure that NANOG continues to operate. So those are important. One thing we'd like to develop next year is to embark on some grant writing and maybe get some grants for certain kinds of activities. That's something that Edward has wanted to do for a couple of years now. We just have not quite been able to pull the trigger on that yet. So I think that next year we'd be able to do that. Certainly my network of professionals, for as long as I've been in the industry, is also available. And I think the board members probably could do more to do some outreach and try and get some donations or other kinds of sponsorships. And we're all available to help with that. It just hasn't been something that's been leveraged to date.
One opportunity would be to expand some of the offerings that we've been doing, both through sponsorships and paid attendance. Classes are a way to do that. Possibly some of the webinars could attract sponsors that would bring in revenue. One thing I don't want to do is increase membership fees or increase attendance fees for the people who come to the conferences. So we need to find other ways through sponsorships, grants, and other sources of income to bring in the money that we need to survive.
As someone who has started and has worked for a number of nonprofit boards, I am extremely familiar with fundraising. Getting organizations off the ground is tough, but even working with organizations that are fully functional can also be a challenge. One of the organizations that I served on the board for was the Development Executives Roundtable, which actually provides fundraising professionals with advice and training. So I'm well versed with fundraising, and from the little individual asks to the big corporate asks, and I would love to help with that. I'm a very outgoing and easy to get along with person, and it's all about building relationships, and I'm happy to be that person.
To find new revenue sources, I think we need to change our sponsorship models. Right now, I think we should open up a lower barrier to entry for those companies who would like to sponsor, or maybe they're a startup, maybe they're just trying to get their name out there. If we can open up a lower tier option or more lower tier options, I think that'll help raise a little funds. But what that can also do is those companies that are donating right now at our current bottom tier, we can reach out to them and say, hey, we're moving the tiers around. If you were to increase your spend by X, you get Y. I think that would help to get us in the right path. The next thing would be to review what our expenses are. Go through what our expenses are, find what things we can cut out that we don't need for meetings. And if there aren't things that we can't cut out, maybe we start renegotiating those contracts with the vendors, trying to get a lower rate. Open it up to reach out to marketing committees. Marketing teams, I think, are going to be a lot easier to get them to buy in on supporting the organization, because it's more about brand recognition than the community engagement. So I think shifting our focus from our contacts within the attendees and start targeting, reaching out. Maybe they aren't an attendee. We reach out to them and see if they'd be interested in sponsoring to get them engaged more.
And our final question, what makes you stand out as a potential new member of the NANOG Board of Directors?
To stand out, I honestly couldn't tell you one way or the other of how I could put myself above those other candidates. Every candidate that is running brings their own unique experience, their own unique perspective, and their own knowledge of how the organization can grow. So I can't really say how I could stand out more than, but I can say that I have been involved in the industry for a very long time. I have been involved in NANOG for so many years. I've worked on the program committee, the communications committee. I have tried to volunteer in any capacity I could to help the organization grow. I love the community. I love what we're doing, and I want to see the organization grow and become something even better than it is.
What makes me stand out is my history in the networking business, my history in nonprofits, and the fact that I am enthusiastic about making sure that we are financially stable, financially capable, and optimizing our cash flow as much as possible.
Yeah, nothing really. I mean, having done this for a few years, I'm in a rhythm now. So there's no, I think the first year that you're on the NANOG board, you're not really as active because you're trying to kind of figure out your groove and, figure out, who the other leaders are on the board and what everybody's agenda is, and feel pretty well established at this point. I feel like we've made some great progress. We have a really fantastic board right now. Um, San Susan, who is, just fantastic to work with as a board member. But the board's been great, and I think it'd be great to just continue what we have and continue driving in a positive direction around the way we've been approaching strategically managing the organization, and giving just enough guidance to the executive director and the staff to make sure they're going in the right direction, but not micromanaging, and allowing us to really focus on the strategy and what NANOG should be doing. I've had a couple of big roles. I've been vice chair this past year. The year before that, I was treasurer, which is also really valuable and interesting. And I've also been mentoring the executive director on a regular basis for the last couple of years. So who knows what specific roles I'll be playing in the future if I'm reelected. But I have a lot of experience now and familiarity with the board to keep driving things the way that we have been and keep them moving in the right direction.
I think the returning member is the key piece here. I've been around for quite a while. I have seen what works and I have seen what doesn't work. I believe NANOG is currently on a very good path, and I want to help it stay on this path, while, of course, being open to new opportunities and new challenges that we faced with the pandemic and what comes beyond that. I think my experience as a past chair, helping to guide consensus, my experience as a program committee member for a while, both bring knowledge that and insight that the board needs to continue. New voices and new blood are certainly important as well, but having some long-term institutional knowledge, I think, is also key.
I am enthused and excited about participating and being involved. I've started a number of nonprofit organizations and I've served on a number of boards. I'm well versed in organizational building and nonprofit management, and I would enjoy giving back with the skills I've learned and the experiences I've gained.
And if we want to move on to closing, let's do that now.
Thank you for the opportunity to present to you. I look forward to seeing the results. This is an awesome community, and I'd like to give more to it.
I want to thank everyone for their time today, listening to the answers to these questions. No matter what the outcome is of this election, I'm still going to be around. And if you have any questions, or you just want to talk, or you want to tell me I'm doing something wrong, let's do it. I'm here for you, despite what my position is within the organization. I love meeting new people. I love helping people meet those that they can't find in the meeting, or they're trying to get a question answered and they can't find it. I love helping them out. That is what I am passionate about, is helping and helping people grow. So I can couple that with my education on organizational leadership, and I think that will help me stand out a little bit more than others.
Thank you again for taking the time to listen to all of the candidates and to make a thoughtful decision. The NANOG community has played a large role in the success of my career, and I've learned a lot and developed some long-lasting friendships here. I plan to continue giving back to the community in some fashion, and I hope you will allow me the privilege of doing so by electing me to the board. Thank you.
I have personally gained from NANOG. I've gained a lot, and I continue to do so. In the early days, my very first public speaking gig was at NANOG 30. And since then, I've come to love public speaking. It scared the bejesus out of me to stand in front of all of you, and knowing that this was such a knowledgeable group of people, and that I wouldn't be able to get away with anything that wasn't quite right. It scared me, and I was flustered, but I loved it. And since then I've come to love public speaking, and it's really helped me in many ways. I've come to love what this community is and what it does and how it all helps us move data around. And I would love to help be a steward of what is to come.
Yeah, why should you elect me? If you feel like NANOG has done pretty well over the last few years, then you should give me a vote and let me keep doing it. Um, what I remember from the membership meetings over the last 10 odd years was, please do more around education. Please do more around mentorship. Those were the two things that rung really clear. Also, modernize the interface, get rid of CVent, for example, for registration, improve the meeting tool and all those kinds of things. And all those things are underway. I mean, we have cleared the plate and made those things a priority so that we can make some serious progress. And uh, if you feel the same way about that I do, that we've accomplished some good things and that we need to keep doing what we're doing, then please give me a vote.